Hey everybody, my name is Andy Ballister, and I'm the CPO and co-founder of EyePop.ai. EyePop.ai is a self-service platform that makes it easy for any team to add computer vision. No machine learning background required. With a simple call, our SDKs let you analyze images, video, or live streams. I'd like to introduce you to Adam Blair, the CEO of Bionics.
Hi, everybody. I'm Adam Blair, co-founder and CEO of Bionics. I'm also joined today with my co-founder and CTO, Don Gillett, at Bionics. We surface data around human behavior in retail stores to help them run their stores more efficiently. And we do this through our proprietary, fully turnkey digital twin solution, and which I'll get a chance to show you guys a little bit later.
All right, excellent. So today we're going to be talking through AI in the retail space. And so welcome to our series of industry-focused AI conversations. We sit down with visionary founders who are putting AI to work in the real world. And Adam, can you tell us about the mission at Bionics, and how did you find yourself on that mission?
Yeah, no, it's a great story, especially between Don and myself. So my background, I've been deploying technology into retail stores for almost 15 years now, two prior startups doing RFID and sort of living in that space. RFID really solved what was $1 trillion problem for retail around inventory. It was a little bit hidden, but it was always there beneath the surface. And through that journey, I sort of found another sort of problem at that scale around store management, and the fact that store managers are just, frankly, they have a really tough job. If you look at a retail store manager, these are people making $70,000 a year, running $4 and $5 million a year businesses. It's really tough, and so all of their decisions tend to be based on intuition, and so you get wildly varying results. And we, in there, the understanding was bringing data to their decision-making process could be a huge benefit in solving that and creating a ton of value in the retail space. A few years back, I met my co-founder Don, and Don came out of his background was he was working at Amazon Go. He was the head architect there. Prior to that, he was at Microsoft in applied, co-founding the research AI division, Microsoft team. So he's done a lot in applied AI and computer vision. And he had this strong desire to sort of take the technology that was at the core of Amazon Go and apply it to other areas. The ability to actually measure the journey of people through the space. Amazon, to their credit, stayed laser focused on that kind of their checkout solution with Amazon Go and their Just Walk Out technology. And so Don made the decision to leave and do that on his own, and that's sort of where the blending of the two happened, right? That was the solution to this real challenge about understanding the data and turning the behaviors in the physical space into meaningful data. So
yeah, and was there a specific moment or something you witnessed in a store that your product now solves?
It's there's a lot of moments, and I think what's great about this and great about the retail space is there's moments that we all can see and feel, right? It's you go to the store, and one of the key ones for me was sort of a recognition around all of those sort of key friction points. So something as simple as like going to a checkout, and the checkout, the staff is there, but nobody's lined up on the checkout stand until the line's already 10 people deep. Right, that leads to a terrible experience. Why can't they anticipate that line is about to build because there's an influx of people into the store 20 minutes ago?
Mm-hmm.
Right, it's an obvious thing that's going to happen, but somebody has to be either ultra aware to anticipate that, or you need the data, and that data hasn't existed. So it's sort of all of those little moments have really compounded to kind of make sense and really understand the value and what can be created here.
That's awesome. And we share that passion for data. There's so much data you can get from images and video, and that's the data both of our companies are trying to help folks access in different ways. And so in your industry, how does data from computer vision help drive better store outcomes?
Yeah, and so retail has been kind of, I believe, a leader in AI and computer vision. Actually, they have technologies around like people counters at the door that go back, I don't know, 10, 15, maybe 20 years. And so they've already been applying some of those capabilities, around certain specific niche cases for a while, right? And the door counters can tell you how many people are coming and leaving, can give you a really good understanding of your conversion rate. So you can get kind of that view of the store operations at sort of that, at least that final level, one level beyond just revenue, which is where they are, and frankly, many of them still are. And so I think that it's, that's one place that we're seeing AI right now. It's again been there for a while, and we view the opportunity to go much further beyond that, right? So how can we take that data? How can we use it to optimize all of those little decisions that happen in the store manager's day, from staffing to positioning people in the store to figuring out the product layout, et cetera.
Excellent. And in your view, what are some of those points of data that stores find most valuable?
Yeah, so the ones that we're focused on and the areas we're focused on, and I'll actually get into from a pure data perspective. I mean, staffing is the number one issue we see, right? And I mentioned the kind of door counters. They help you sort of make decisions based on, retailers make that decision based on revenue, based on conversion historically. But there's actually better, there are better things that they can be making their decision on, right? A lot of us go to stores right now and just browse, and then we go home and buy online. We may be buying from the same place. We're just choosing a different path to purchase. And so if you're just looking at conversion rate, you're actually missing a huge swath of your existing customers. You're also missing those experiences that they have in your store that really get associated with your brand and with your product. So the staffing is key to get the right people in the right place. The other one that's really become big for us is around loss prevention. And this is really more of a hybrid use case where direct video access is still highly, highly relevant. But it needs to be data driven even still. You need to know, whatever the behaviors that led to an internal theft or an external theft to understand exactly where and when you want to get access to the video. And we have the ability to surface those things and make them, more readily accessible. But those are the areas that we see, the most interest in, and where we see our customers finding it most useful.
Excellent. All right. Well, can we see that working on-site Bionics? Yeah. How does it all fit together for the retail stores?
Yeah, I'm happy to. So I'll share my screen and we'll walk through a demo. I actually structured this in two pieces, because we take a lot of pride in our underlying technology, and I wanted to make sure, especially with this audience, to show the underlying technology as well as the value creating product itself. And so we talk about our solution being a fully turnkey digital twin solution. And for us, that starts with scanning the store and creating a three-dimensional model of the space. And so this is a demo from our app that's actually scanning this particular store. And when we do this, we actually create multiple models of the space from the same scan. So this scan in this space took about 9.5 minutes. Again, the whole thing is designed to be super easy to deploy. And multiple models come out of that. So here's one of the models that we use, and this is used for getting a contextual understanding of the space. And this is actually quite a macro view of that. So you see the floors, the walls, windows, ceilings, doors are all different colors. That's it making those detections. Obviously, for retail use cases, the doors are particularly interesting. The others are as well, but the doors are of particular interest. And then this is another model we pull out of this, and this model is used for a couple things. One is it's a visual representation of the store at that moment, which is interesting for a lot of folks. You could actually put, VR goggles on and walk through it if you wanted to. The other thing it does is we use it for calibrating the position and orientation of the existing security cameras. And so we use existing security cameras and we get full path journey, and calibration of those cameras is critical to that. That's what allows you to understand when two different cameras see one person, whether it's the same person or two different people, matters through everything we're trying to do. And so this is a little fly through of that model. The path that's generated in this case is notional. I'll get to a real path in a second. But to give an idea of the nature of the model that's being created here, it's quite visually compelling still. And I don't know how well it's coming across on Zoom. Sometimes it can be a little blurry, but
No, it looks good. I like that.
thanks. Yeah. And then the last thing I'm going to, the last piece, or actually the next piece I'm going to show on the technology side of things is this is a little demo of a walkthrough showing the complete journey tracking in action. So we did a test case. This is me walking. I think I may be wearing the same shirt. But the idea is we did this a little separate, so we're not covering, from privacy perspective. But what it's showing here, and actually let me go back and pause this for just a minute. What you're seeing in this is the full journey tracking. So as I'm coming through this space, you can see me here on the right, on the image, and on the left you can see a push pin on the model. That's the measurement of the inferred position of the journey. And through this, I'm being seen by multiple cameras through most of this journey. And as I go out and around the little half wall there, you can see I'm now completely out of view of this camera. But you can see the continuous journey on the left. And now it's going to switch camera views, and I'll spin the model around to get a better understanding, to make it clear where we're looking at this from. And the journey is complete, is then picked up from there and run to its completion. So this lets us start to see the behaviors, right? So you can see all the behaviors that led to the outcome of me in this case on that journey, right? Which brings up a whole new level of data that we can surface from it. This is now a real moment of real tracking in the 3D space. This was, again, just a snapshot we took of time. If you see the people, you'll see them coming in the door on the left and moving through the space. There is a lot of sitting around in this store. It is amazing how much people can idle when you actually take the time to look. We all do it. But this is kind of just showing the tracking through a larger group of folks, just to show it's real.
Can you tell us a little bit about the color designation of those pins in that scene?
Yeah, so one of the things that we can do, and this again is going back in September, so a little earlier, is we have the ability to detect the difference between customers and staff members, and we do this based on behaviors. Staff members have unique set of behaviors. They go into the back of the house, right? They go behind the cash register, and through those behaviors, you can infer who's actually a staff member and who's a customer. So we've got customer, staff member, and unknown in this case, right? Again, as the technology matures, the idea is to get fewer and fewer of the unknowns. But in the meantime, there's a ton of value that we can create from where we lie.
Awesome.
And my next step will be jumping into the value we create. So this is a dashboard that you come into for our solution. And I'm going to start with the very boring, the system monitoring, because it's actually quite important for a lot of folks. The camera systems at stores are notoriously under-maintained. This allows you to actually check the health at all given moments. If something goes down any part of the system, you'll get an appropriate alert. And then we'll step into the dashboard. This is where it starts to get interesting. So I mentioned the staffing piece of it, and that this is what we use for that. So a real focus on occupancy. Show me how many people are in your store at any given moment. And that's what this is showing here. We can then, from here, we also, we have this sort of, again, I talked about a little bit on the security side of things, but this hybrid approach where we connect video and data. And so from here, you can actually go in and see, okay, I clicked on this fairly busy point of my store. What does it actually look like? And if you're like an experienced store manager, like a district regional manager, you understand, you can get a lot out of these little visuals to understand where my store is. From here, you can dip down a level deeper. Again, if there's video is available. So our solution runs primarily at the edge, and because data connections are limited, we're very thoughtful in what data we forward up to the cloud. If video is available, because it's still in the whatever 30, 60, 90 days that was purchased by the customer, or it had previously been uploaded, it can be made available through here. But the snapshots themselves have proven to be highly valuable as well. So this will now jump back into the staffing side of things. So on the left now, you've got and this is all real data, by the way, you've got the the store occupancy numbers, and on the right you've got the staffing plan. And so you kind of, the moment you start to see this, your first question is, well, what's my ratio look like? What's my customer to staff ratio? Because that's really the ideal thing to be staffing based upon. And so we can actually come back here on the left side and change it from average to see exactly that ratio. And there's two interesting things in this data set here. So there's a little bit of a story in here. You can see the hotspot on Monday, right? That really sticks out. If you look at the staffing profile on the right, you see that Monday is staffed just like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, like any other day of the week. The problem here is this is Martin Luther King Day. And Martin Luther King Day is a tough holiday because it falls on a different day of the year every year. And so it's very easy for an overwhelmed store manager to miss that this is a day they need to staff more like a weekend. And that's in fact what happened here. The other interesting thing that you can make out of this data is that Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday are all quite overstaffed. There's a little bit more you have to do to get to that conclusion, but the conclusion is there. And so dropping the staffing there creates an opportunity to save what for retail can be whole points, the equivalent of whole points of revenue, which in a 3 to 5% net margin business can be massive. We also have the ability, now this is where I had to cut some data out. We also have the ability to ingest the point of sale data. I did not want to share this particular data in this case. It tends to be quite sensitive data. But the interesting thing in this case is you can actually find that the transaction data on Monday was not far off from where it was on Saturday and Sunday. So maybe even though the store got overwhelmed, maybe it's not as big of a problem as you might think. Again, starts to lean more towards overstaffing tendencies of the operations, although there is more to experience than just sales. But we have the ability to do that. Now I'm going into a different tool we have that measures traffic through different spaces of the store. So this is showing cumulative person hours by section of the store. And these are sections that we have a whole solution that you can go in and mark up. So you can understand and allocate your sections as you want. They can overlap, which is why I had to go in and immediately deselect the entire store. It overlaps all of these other areas. And again, there's another story in here. I can go and click out of everything but the 3 primary sections of the store. So if you were to look at the shoe fitting area, the benches area, and the apparel section, they're all pretty equivalent in their size from a square footage perspective. And yet the traffic is way lower on the apparel section. Turns out so are sales. So this creates an opportunity. This is highlighting an opportunity to drive traffic into the apparel section. And what a retailer will do is they'll run a series of experiments to try to push that traffic into those sections. And we provide the ability to measure those outcomes and see how well those attempts are actually working at driving the intended outcome. That's what I've got. So I will unshare and send it back to you, Andy.
Excellent. Yeah, looks great. Actually, some of these insights are new to me, so that's really cool stuff. Yeah, that's great. And so pulling together this data is difficult. It requires a lot of different models. And what are some of the other things that stores want to know about their customers?
Yeah. Well, one of the things, and they want to understand a lot. I mean, they want to understand as much as they can about their customers. One of the things that I think can get misunderstood pretty quickly is demographic data. But demographic data is really important to retailers. When you think about like fashion goes in and out all the time. And there's always this kind of desire, like retailers need to be constantly considering whether their customer base is the right base and the right growing base. So they'll make a change to a product line. They'll make a change to an external advertising campaign to try to drive a new audience into the store, right? Often around gender and age in particular, right? And so that's one of the things that we know that retailers can really benefit from is understanding the nature of, exactly who are these people. And that leads to all sorts of things, right? And it's one of these things that has to be considered on a location by location basis, right? You can imagine in San Diego down here, you know, your demographics around, you know, by college area versus, you know, Encinitas up the coast are going to be quite different. And when you push a new advertising campaign, you're going to expect differences in both of those. And you might have a big effect, but it may not show as much in one or versus the other, depending on the nature of the campaign. So yeah, I think, you know, that's one of the things that comes immediately to mind.
Excellent. Some of the things you're doing, like tracking a customer's journey over multiple cameras through a three-dimensional space, are pretty close to the limits of what you can do with AI right now. But what do you see as big opportunities for using vision and AI in the industry in the next couple of years?
Yeah, I think, you know, when we look out a couple years, you know, we see the industry largely, you know, the industry at some point needs to get to a place of being data driven. It just has to, right? You see all of these other industries around us. I mean, you go and, like, you know, checking out a sport, you know, you watch a baseball game now, right? A couple years ago, the way baseball's played is completely changed because of the sabermetrics and the Moneyball type analytics that have been brought into the space. In retail, you've got these sort of underpaid, overstressed store managers that are really, you know, they're, I mean, a lot of these people are great. Like, they're trying really hard, but they're, you know, if we could give them the tools to make those kinds of data driven decisions about their day-to-day activities, the expectation, we should see a huge impact, right? I don't think I mentioned it earlier when I was talking about it, but there was a study that was done that showed it did a whole, it was a novel study, and it did this replacement of people of managers throughout a large chain, or a retail chain in Europe. And what they were able to conclude from that was that the difference between a 10th percentile store manager and a 90th percentile store manager is 50 to 100% increase in store operating efficiency. So the store manager matters a lot. These little
Yeah,
decisions matter a lot. And so
yeah,
the way I see it is the Vision AI is the tool that allows us to surface the data in a contextually meaningful way, right? And at the start, that's data. And in the next couple of years, we can bring that to bear. And the store, you know, the store managers, the regional managers can start to play a bigger role. All these specialists within the retail organization can start to play a bigger role, and by giving them the tools to know when to go look at in on the store to understand what's going on. Beyond that, there's another opportunity then to layer AI on top of that, so that next level decision making can be done, you know, for the retailer, and just optimize every aspect of the store operations.
excellent. And if AI could magically, maybe beyond the technology currently, but if it could magically extract any insight from the videos that are taking place in store, what would be the next evolution of what's useful to you and store managers?
Yeah, I think the thing that could become magical in that is sentiment. The better we can understand the sentiment and the intent of the shopper as they're there, right? The reality is, when we go into a store now, it's a decision in a way that it's never been before, in the sense that we have the online option. So we're going into the store for a reason, and there's a handful of reasons people go into the store, and the experience they're looking for, depending on that reason, can be wildly varying, right? You may be going into the store as a recreational activity with a friend to go, just go try things on, and it's just an event for the day,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or you might be going in because you've got a deadline and you need that thing now, right? Those are the two biggest reasons people choose to go into stores versus buying online.
Yeah.
And the sentiment of those people can be identified from their facial expressions, from their movements, from their behaviors. It's there. So if you could surface that, you could really start to customize the experience for the shopper in a way that's never been done before.
That's excellent. Yeah, there's so much intentful um, analysis that we do on digital spaces, and having the concept of that in real life as well is really impressive. What have you learned that store managers could do today to help increase the output of their store?
Yeah, and I think for a retailer, it starts with the manager and it starts with the basics. I mentioned the staffing. I can't say it enough. um,
Yeah.
right? It's get that staffing profile right, and establish the tools to keep that right and keep it in place, right? And continually optimize it. It's a huge expense for it's the second largest expense next to the product itself in retail, so it's kind of the largest they actually have control over. And you know there's just tons of opportunity, and you can be wrong on either side of that, right?
Yeah.
It's wildly problematic.
Yeah.
I would then also think about how to get other experts in the retail organization, better position them to help their store managers and their store staff. These retail chains, it's not, they have the store manager in place, but they all have these great staffs behind them, right? That are, when it starts with the regional managers, but it also includes visual merchandising. It includes teaching and training folks, loss prevention. You know, all of these things are roles that can be, you know, through the use of video and data-driven video, can be really, extracted out of the, can basically be helpful to a manager. Where right now, all too often, these things become burdens.
Hmm.
Right? The loss prevention is one of the easiest ones, where so many of these security systems, when a bad event happens, the store manager's problem to identify it, to go dig in, to find the video, to pull it out, right? There's no reason for that, right? So I think these sort of help give these support teams the tools to improve the store managers.
Excellent. And so some of the things that you mentioned, getting a sense of who the customer is, demographics, getting some qualitative data. We wanted to put a demo of what you can do with EyePop around that. And so we collaboratively worked with Site Bionics on some of that, as well as a really interesting use case around store clutter over time as people take things off the shelves and reposition the inventory within the store. And so I'm going to introduce Shiroz, our account engineer, and he's going to take over and showcase a demo around advanced demographics and what you can do with the iPop platform.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Share my screen here. Is my screen visible?
Yes, looking good.
So I'm going to take us straight to our EyePop dashboard. If you haven't already, feel free to make an account. It's really quick and free. And once you're on a dashboard, you can create an AI model, create an endpoint, or create a report. Today, we're going to be creating an endpoint. So once you create an endpoint, you just need to name it. And then you can integrate computer vision into any type of project you have. And we have a set of models already created, which you can use right away. So once we get our AI server, we can just pick whatever model we would like, and then we can integrate this into our project immediately. This. There we go. So we have models already created that you can use right away, from detecting people with 2D body points, or 3D face, body, and hands, all of these models below. And you can even create your own models and access them through this endpoint. And just to preview what this would look like, come here and see that this is working. And you can see that we are running computer vision on this person, and we're getting returned this person with these 2D body points. So that's how you create a endpoint through our dashboard, but you can also create one programmatically. So go right here. This is all the lines of code I have to create an endpoint for a demo I'm going to show in a little bit. Right here, we're just defining our model of what we are trying to detect, which is a person, and a category name, which is the label. But beyond just programmatically, we can also integrate EyePop with our plugins or SDKs. So here we have our quick start guide for our Node SDK, and you can follow these instructions to download it, or you can open it in a Replit sandbox and start coding right away and just integrate EyePop by inputting in your API key or your POP ID, so your specific endpoint. We also have a Python SDK, and you can start testing this out in a interactive notebook style format. And we also have plugins. So if you want to use a Zapier plugin, Bubble.io plugin, or Mind Studio, you can use EyePop directly in those platforms. Awesome. Now, let me show you this demo that we put together. So here we are looking at a retail store through the camera footage, and we are detecting people coming in. And beyond just detecting people coming in and out, we're also sending that information to EyePop to gather more data like the advanced demographics. So we know people are coming in, but we want to know what is their age range, what are they wearing, what is their style, all this data so we can understand our customers even more. So let me play this for you. And here we have our store count. And as people cross this threshold, we are incrementing our store count because they're coming from outside to inside. But as this person leaves, they go from below to above the line. We are decrementing this store count. And as you can see, each person has these trace IDs, so we can track these individuals in our store. And for each person we are detecting, we are also asking EyePop some questions. We're asking EyePop, categorize this person's actions as relevant to a store context. What is their age range? What is their gender? What kind of style clothing are they wearing? And that's where we get these responses. So ID2, this person is a sitting customer. This is her age, looks like it's around 40s, gender, style, and their outfit. And we get the same thing for the women who entered the store, with the man who entered the store, and the customer who exited. So how did I put this together? Let me go back to that code that I just shared. So from right here, once we define our EyePop endpoint, we're also forwarding that information to our EyePop's model, where we are asking it this prompt question. And here we're asking it to analyze the image provided and to categorize the action of the person, their age, their gender, fashion style, describe their outfit, and report all of these categories as a class label. And essentially this 30 lines of code is how I'm able to detect people and get advanced customer demographics of each person in the frame. Do we have any questions here? Okay, great. I'm going to give it back to you then, Andy.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Rose. And so Rose is showcasing what developers can do in a couple of hours using our platform. This was a really fun use case to work on as a developer. And so that's, this side of EyePop is great for teams that are looking to build custom solutions and put together data around the visual media that they're having come into their platform. And so in this case, using store cameras. The other thing we wanted to show today around EyePop is how does a non-developer get access to meaningful data that will drive actions in their business? And so we wanted to showcase also our reports feature today. And so I will also share my screen. And Adam, if you would, can you talk a little bit about the use case that we're going to be looking at here?
This is the Clutter one?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's I mean, one of the things that matters a lot to retailers is actually keeping their store clean. It's something they maybe over index on. I think there's a sort of a cultural personality thing there. But it also does matter. It affects I mean, it absolutely affects the shopping experience. And so I think the example we're going to look at is a shoe store,
Mhm.
right? And one of the things that happens in this specific, there's two major issues that become very top of mind with a shoe store when you have this kind of clutter. The clutter here comes from shoes that have been brought out and tried on and not been put away yet. The two big operational things that come out of this is first thing is it starts to cover bench spaces. And if you don't have enough space for people to sit, they will spend less time there and the conversion will go down. And this is kind of a well-known thing in the industry. The other thing is shoe stores in general don't have much of a loss prevention problem, not out of the front of the house at least, because nobody wants a whole bunch of right shoes. But the moment that those shoes are put out and left out, it becomes an opportunity for you'll see the shrink go up in those scenarios. So it's not uncommon when a store gets overwhelmed that this cleaning activity is one of the first things to go. So being able to identify it to store management to understand that this is hitting a problem point. What is that problem point? Can guide your team in their decision making in terms of going and correcting those behaviors and cleaning up the store and getting your customers the experience they expect.
Excellent. And so some of the things that we put together on our side is just like Sharoz was able to ask questions of people within the scene of video. We're going to be taking snapshots taken over time, 32 snapshots over the course of a business day in this shoe store. And we're going to look at questions that are relevant to this clutter problem. And so how many customers are present in frame will give us a good estimation of what's my traffic over time, and does that relate to the clutter in the store? We can ask things like, are customers appearing to wait for help? Do they appear impeded? Because certainly we don't want to impede aisles, and on some level, we also don't want to block those benches where customers are trying these shoes on. We want to identify safety hazards and lighting conditions, and then if there are visible signs of theft or security concerns, let's identify those things too. And so how I would do that in our EyePop visual intelligence report feature is I would come to my reports. I would click on new report. This one we're just going to call, we'll make a generic one, retail report here. The object I'm interested in this instance is a store. And so just like Sharoz was interested in the people in the scene, in this instance, we're interested in looking at the entire store. I can then add properties or questions to the store of things that I specifically want to know about the store. And so just for this example, I'm going to cut and paste one of these questions in here. One of the things we found valuable to our technology is if I expect to just get numbers back, which is great for roll-up data, I can specify, I just want the number here. I don't want any sort of commentary from our backend technology on customers other than how many did it find. Same thing with some of these other questions. In particular, how many boxes or merchandise are in the aisles or on the benches. I just want the number there. And so I'll just put these two questions in for our demonstration presentation. If there are other things I'm interested in, I can add those properties here as well. I'm going to then upload files into here. And so I've got my data that I'm going to drag in. And this will take a moment to upload, and this actually pre-processes this data as well. And so that it's ready to be combined into a report. And then when I'm done, I can start that report happening. And we can go and take a look at some of the results. And so this report, as I've run before, takes about 10 minutes to run. We have the 32 images we're running this over. Let's go And let's look at an already finished version of this same report with a couple more questions added in there. And so I showed a small preview of this while Adam was talking. And so we have lots of, this tells us a sense of how many times was it able to answer this question of this report. So it looks like we're getting good data back for the things we care about. Now I can go in and view this in more of a visual mode. This I found helpful to potentially refine the report and the questions that I'm asking. We're going to specifically look at images here that where we can't identify customers. But as an example for this image, how many customers did it find in the image? Are they navigating freely? How many boxes are showing in the aisles? How many boxes are showing on benches? And so having a sense of that type of data in here, and we can see as later in the day, the store gets busier, boxes start piling up. At some points, there has been some cleaning happening there, and it's reset back to normal store operation, and then they get a rush, and there's some boxes again. And so some of the ways I may want to take a look at this data are number one, I want to just download a CSV. And so I prepared a CSV here just in Google Spreadsheets. This is exactly as the data comes out. And so I can see customers over time versus boxes on benches versus boxes in the aisles, a qualitative sort of metric of are there, do customers have full navigability over the space? Are there some safety concerns or tripping risks that we should look at? In this, it mentions there's also scattered shoes that it found. So there's some things we may want to be concerned with there. Lighting stays consistent the entire time, and we're not seeing any security concerns outside of that. So once I have this data, I can do things like put it in a graph, and we can see there's clear times where we start out great, it gets busy, and then there's different cleaning periods where those boxes have been taken away and cleaned up, put back onto the shelves. It gets busy again, and we can see that data over time. And so if I ran this over multiple days, we can start to roll up metrics around this particular problem. And so one of the things we're super excited about at EyePop is just being able to structure questions like this into data that I can then take action on in my business. One of the other ways that we present these reports is as just a roll-up report here, and so we can see the same snapshot view in a PDF. I can then, send this out to my employees, and we can start to have conversations about these types of things. If there are roll-up statistics there, I can include that into my reports as well. And so that was a extremely fun project to work on, and that's showcases some of the out of the box thinking you could do with our reporting system. And so we're at a great time for if there are any questions in the audience for either Adam or myself. Love to jump in and take a look at that.
Hi guys, great presentation. I had a question for Andy.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any way to send this info to managers in real time? Or do you think that would just create information overwhelm?
I do think there are important things to send in real time. One of the retail brands we're working with right now, they're a store within store. And so they don't have complete control over how their inventory is being showcased because it's not truly their employees doing the hands-on work there. And so they just want to know in real time, is there something about their brand that is not being portrayed according to their guidelines? And so I think there's lots of cases like that where actually a real quick real-time ping to a store manager would be helpful. We do have, and so as Sharo's showcased there, that system all runs in real time. And so very similar to how you ask reports of a batch of images, like I did, you can do that in code as well. And so you can hook that code up to your own system. You can hook it up through an API like Zapier and actually ping somebody's phone, some other alerting system, whatever you have access to.
Okay,
Mhm.
great, thanks.
Thank you.
And Adam, I asked you a question in the chat. I wondered if you had a chance to take a look at it.
Yeah, so you're asking, I think it's probably the best one for Don. Don, if you're there, I don't know if you see the question in the chat.
Yeah. Yeah, no, very good question. So the question here is, digital twin technology seems complex. What were the biggest challenges developing the 3D scanning, multi-camera tracking, et cetera? So I kind of two answers to this. One is, the kind of answer is within your question. It is a complicated system, so making it not complicated was the most complicated part, right? So for example, the scanning, to create a 3D model and have all the understanding, we really wanted it to just be a really simple process and of a mobile app. And it's really kind of like painting. You just kind of walk around and it colors everything in the store once it's gathered enough information. And that's kind of all it has to be done to set up the store. Technically, under the covers, there's just massive number of problems in this full solution of stitching together the cameras. So one of them is in, just the geometry of everything, all the math behind it. We deal with cameras that are fisheye cameras that have distortion in them and different. So, getting all of that right where you can, with enough accuracy, turn a box around a person into their position in a 3D space, really required, pretty good accuracy in the camera calibration process. So that was one of them. The other one is kind of a performance versus quality trade-off. If we throw infinite compute at this and run the biggest models, you get a lot more accuracy, but then your compute cost might be, several $100s per camera in the hardware that we put in at the edge. And so we're, trying to squeeze it down where we can have a device that's, $600, that's a replacement for a DVR that can handle, all the cameras in a store. And so then you're running lower quality models that are quantized. And so, kind of having that done where you can, get the right performance and accuracy trade-off and turn that knob. So yeah, I'll pause there.
Okay, great, thank you. Great work. I mean, it's just really impressive because I've seen this done before for getting houses ready for sale and making those cameras go around. So it's just great to see that you found this use for it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
In the customer journey through a store, how long after that customer is in the store do some of those insights roll up to the dashboard and your system inside Bionics?
Are you talking like latency from
Yeah.
a technical perspective? Don, do you want to take that one? I think
Yeah, I'll take that. I mean, we know pretty much frame by frame, so only a few frames of latency where people are located, and then you obviously want to introduce latency to pull out noise and everything. So it's kind of a tunable answer to that. We do everything on most of our work is on the edge and then push things to the cloud. So there's some amount of optimization and reporting up to the cloud. So, we bucketize our movement in 10-minute buckets is kind of our standard default. But we could totally turn that knob down, and it's just a perf versus feature trade-off.
Excellent. So you're getting really real-time results up there as people are in the store right now, what's happening.
Yeah, you kind of have to, because unlike some cameras where motion detection is kind of a good clue of like, okay, I can start processing, I can send this in, to something on the cloud. We have to process every frame that comes in.
Mm-hmm.
So you really don't have an opportunity to delay. Now then, other handoffs can totally come into that. So for example, if you have an area of the store that's not used very frequently, then you could do more delayed things, hand off to like EyePop to do a more detailed report on some kind of event that's triggered by the live action. So we really think of it as kind of a tiered level on that.
Well, I really appreciate everyone for coming. if you'd like to talk to either of us afterwards, we're going to be sending out information around our contact, how you would sign up for either of the programs, and then just in general, a recording of this conversation that if you want to revisit or send to anyone in your industry that hasn't seen it. So thank you. I appreciate everyone coming, and thanks a lot. We'll conclude here.